This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and for those of you who liked the Lenovo Yoga 900 but found it too expensive for your budget, well, here's the Lenovo Yoga 700. This is available in the 14-inch model, which we have here, and there's also an 11.6-inch model. And given that it's a Yoga, you can imagine it does the 360-degree hinge thing. Intel Skylake 6th generation processors inside. And it's last year we had the Lenovo Yoga 3 and the 3 Pro. This is sort of like the 3, the non-Pro model. Once again, the 3 14-inch was a bit heavier, a bit less styling than the Pro model. This time the styling is even more separated because there's no watch band hinge like there is on the 700 series. But there are a few good things actually about this compared to the Lenovo Yoga 900, besides the cheaper price. And we're going to talk about that now. So this is the Lenovo Yoga 700 model. In Lenovo's new lineup lingo, the 700 model is below the 900 model, which makes sense. Lower number and all that sort of thing. So it sits below the Lenovo Yoga 900 and the new 900S, which is the super slimmed down Yoga 900 version that was just announced at CES in January 2016. This one is several $100s more affordable. The specs aren't quite as high on it either, which of course is fair. You know, you pay more money for better specs on this. It has the same 360-degree hinge. It has the same full Core i5 and i7 Intel 6th generation Skylake CPUs inside, SSD drives, and of course it does the yoga thing. So you have tent mode, like so. You have presentation mode, and you can just close it and put it in tablet mode, like so. Now this weighs 3.5 pounds, so this is not a lightweight machine, especially compared to the Yoga 900 that we reviewed a couple of months ago. In fact, let's break that one out and compare them so you get the idea right away. First off, though, this one is $899, so that's what you're paying for this. That's with the Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, a 256 gig SSD, full HD touchscreen, 1920 by 1080. That's the only display option here. Voila, we have the Yoga 900. 13.3-inch display for our Yoga 900, 14-inch display for the Yoga 700. Like I said, there's also an 11.6-inch model for that one too. So, 2.8 pounds, lighter obviously. That's the thing about the Yoga 900. It's super slim, it's super light, especially for a 360-degree convertible. And that's how they look together, like so. Obviously, you're not going to get the flashy watch band hinge, and it won't be as skinny on the 700 model, but you can see there, it's not exactly a chunky monkey, is it? Fancy watch band hinge, regular old Yoga Pro 2 and Yoga Pro 3 and so on kind of hinge design there. It's beefy, it gets the job done, that's fine. This is cosmetic and this is pretty, that's its main point. So for those of us who can't afford to pay for cosmetics, the 700 exists. Now as we take a look on the inside, this is the Yoga 700, that's the Yoga 900 right here. Difference in the texture, this has a brushed metal surface right here, and this has Lenovo's rubbery texture thing, but difference in the displays is pretty obvious. This one, the Yoga 700, is a lot dimmer. We'll go into the display in the review. That one is also higher resolution. This is QHD+, so you're talking 3200 by 1800 resolution Samsung PLS display. This is a 1920 by 1080 IPS display, so that's the difference there. So now that we've got that down, let's get into the actual review of our Yoga 700. All right, so let's talk about the display a little bit more. Again, 14-inch here. Color gamut, not so great. You know, so look at the display. The first time I booted up, I thought, well, the contrast is pretty good on this, and it is pretty good. It's 770 to 1. Black levels are pretty good. The blacks can get pretty low on this, but the colors are pleasing but not wonderful. And that's why we see here 66% of sRGB and only 50% of Adobe RGB. Normally spend close to 100% of sRGB and 75% of Adobe RGB are what we see in Ultrabooks around $1,000 in price. So not so super great there. If you're going to buy something for photo editing where color gamut and accuracy really matter, this one wouldn't be your choice. Now, in terms of white point, it was at about 7,200 degrees Kelvin, and something around 6,600 would be ideal, but it's calibratable and that's easily fixable. However, the display measures just under 200 nits of brightness. It measured 191 nits, which is part of the reason why you're going to notice more reflections in this review, because it's not bright enough to combat. You see, there it is. The reflection, this is a glossy touchscreen. No optional pen technology here other than a capacitive stylus like you'd use on an Android tablet or iPhone, something like that. So the display is not bad looking at all to look at it, but it's just not Marvy, you know, and when you're spending $900, you kind of want it to be marvelous. The keyboard on this is backlit. Wonderful contrast on here. You know, I actually like this a little bit better than the Lenovo Yoga 900 keyboard. Feels like a little bit more travel. This one is more personable. It's a nice firm deck. I mean, if you press down hard, it'll bounce a little bit. It's not a unibody metal construction. But overall, I found it a pretty serviceable keyboard. Trackpad also behaves very nicely. It's not one of those super slick, glidey surfaces for those of you who prefer that. It's got roughness to the texture of the glass there, but you can hear it. It's also a little rattly, but Lenovo trackpads tend to be the kind that you can actually hear. Anyway, it works well for two-finger scrolling, multi-touch gestures, pinch zooming. It did the job. One thing I don't appreciate is this giant sticker over here. Now, often laptops come with stickers, and these big ones that show you the features are very easy to peel off, and I gave up trying to get this one off because there's so much goo under here, and it's tearing, and I figured there's no way I was going to be able to get that clean to show you for our review. So, gosh, Lenovo, really? For the backlighting on the keyboard, you hit FN and spacebar. It is either on or off. Obviously, you can use this at any angle you want. It's a 360-degree hinge. It is robust. You can use it flat if you wanted to. And you can see how slim it is, which is pretty impressive. You know, it's not Yoga 900 territory there or the Samsung Ultrabook 9 Spin we reviewed, but then again, it is a lot more affordable. It has a kind of, can you hear that? A little pattern texture over there to improve the grip, which is good. Anything that's on the skinny side, you like that. This matte black soft touch finish, which is not unlike a ThinkPad finish, is nice because it doesn't show fingerprints very much. I've been handling this and you really can't tell. So for those of you who are tidy types, it won't drive you crazy. Again, like the Samsung Ultrabook 9 Spin, which has a beautiful matte black metal finish, but my God, you just barely touch it and it looks gross. Ventilation is along the back here. These are ULV dual-core CPUs, 15 watts, so they don't generate a lot of heat. Now, the optional graphics, you can either get it with the Intel HD 520 integrated graphics, which is your standard integrated graphics for Intel Skylake generation CPUs, or you can get it with switchable NVIDIA 940M graphics with 2 gigabytes of VRAM. So, not unlike the Surface Book or Lenovo's on ThinkPad Yoga 14 that had that option. That gives you about twice the performance of Intel HD 520 graphics, but still much, much lower than a gaming laptop, like, say, the GTX 960M. This is not even in the GTX category. That's below it. But for $50, honestly, I would spend the money. That brings it up to $949, and that is something that sets it apart from the Yoga 900, certainly, where that isn't even an option. You get so skinny, it's just not possible. And the Spectre X360, there's no optional dedicated graphics. So that's a plus for this. We have more ventilation over here, and we'll splice in an internals video so you can see what's going on inside. Lots of little Torx T5 screws, and then lots of annoying plastic clips on the side. So you have to kind of work your way around to get the bottom off, but you can get it off. And you'll see there's one fan here, and that's for the CPU, and there's another one that's labeled dummy fan on ours. That's there in case you do get the NVIDIA 940M, and then it's going to have its own little fan over there to keep things pretty chilling. This guy runs quiet, and it runs cool. Again, integrated graphics only on this, but typically the 940M doesn't make a whole lot of heat. Unless you're gaming, you're probably not going to get this all hot and bothered. Inside here, again, we'll splice in the internals, but we have a conventional 2.5-inch hard drive bay. It has a 256 gig SSD in here for the $899 price point. Ours is made by Samsung, so pretty easy to source other drives to fit in. That's just a standard laptop hard drive slot. Unlike the Yoga 900, there is one RAM slot. RAM is soldered on board on the Yoga 900, so this one has a RAM slot. That's a lot like the Yoga 3 14-inch we reviewed last year. Now, 8 gigs are the largest commonly available module, and this ships with 8 gigs in our configuration, but Intelligent Memory does make 16 gig modules for those of you who have the money to spend. They're not cheap, but they're there. Socketed wireless cards, Intel Wireless AC3165. That's Intel's lower end dual band Wi-Fi card. If you move up to the Yoga 900, you'll get the higher end card. These grills here for 2 fairly large speakers. Lenovo really puts some pretty loud full speakers in their laptops, and these are quite pleasing too. So you got the vents over here, 2 watts, JBL, sounds good. Now, in terms of performance, this score is pretty much where you would expect a 6th generation Core i5 Ultrabook to score. This has the i5-6200U 2.3 gigahertz. There's our Crystal Diskmark score for the SSD drive, which is nothing to write home about, but nothing terrible either there. It's pretty typical of a SATA interface SSD. And here's our Geekbench. 3 numbers, again, pretty much par for the course. Maybe a little bit lower than I expected. I would expect a little bit more like 3,000 and a little over 6,000 there, but not bad. It did very well on PC Mark 8 Home, however. This is the home accelerated test right here, 2917. That's actually a little bit faster than some of the Core i7 15-watt Skylake laptops that we've reviewed lately. Again, this one just has Intel HD 520 graphics, so really nothing to say about the graphics performance here. It's for casual games, it's for 2D games, that's about it. I know some of you will push it, and you could run Skyrim at 720p in really low settings. It's not meant for gaming, though. And so you can hear the speakers for a bit and see how a video looks. We'll show you our Samsung T-Book Spin video review. And we have speaker volume currently set to 60%. Alright, so here we are playing it at 1080p, 60% volume. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and Happy New Year, everybody. It's January 2016, and it's good times for Samsung. Well, it sounds pretty good to me, and it's fairly loud, and you know, that wasn't bad quality to look at in terms of display quality. It's passable, certainly. Like I said, it's just not for your photo and video editors. So lastly, how about ports and battery life? The ports are unsurprisingly not that different from the Yoga 900, but there's no USB-C port here. Here we have the charging/USB 2.0 port. That's Lenovo's new connector. I'll show you the charger in a minute. Same charger as the Yoga 900. USB 3.0 port, your combo mic headphone jack, your SD card slot right over there. And on the other side, another USB 3.0 port. I always like to have one on each side. And we have micro HDMI, which is surprising. I mean, it's not that small a chassis, but I guess they really couldn't fit it in because they wanted to put volume controls on the outside and the power button, which is not so unusual for 2-in-1 convertibles. So just in case you're using it in tablet mode, you have access to it. And that's Lenovo's one-key recovery right there. And the charger is this little guy right here. Well, not super little, but it's interesting. It's kind of like a giant tablet kind of charger, and the prongs retract to make it a little easier to carry, and you've got an okay amount of cord. Not as long as your traditional laptop cord, but it's around 5 feet or so, I would guess, of cord right there, and it is detachable as well. Lenovo claims 7 hours of battery life on a charge, and for once that's not wildly optimistic. That's actually pretty accurate. There's a 45 watt-hour battery nominally sealed inside. If you undo the Torx screws here and take off the bottom, you can access it should you need to service it. And in a mix of productivity and streaming 1080p video, in fact, it did last us 7 hours on average, which is okay. It's not an Energizer Bunny world record making, but it's decent. So that's the Lenovo Yoga 700. It's available now, and again, it is $899 for the Core i5 configuration that we have here, and $50 more gets you that NVIDIA 940M, which is an interesting option, something you don't see in too many flippy convertibles. The ThinkPad Yoga 14 would be one of the few for those that have 360-degree hinges. The thing is about this product is it's perfectly serviceable. It's pretty boring looking, you know, in matte black. You also have a silver option, and it's serviceable, but it doesn't do a whole lot to stand out against the HP Spectre X360, which continues on as being one of the best bargains, especially now it's been on perma-sale ever since the holidays of 2015. Now it's 2016. And for $999, you get something that's a unibody metal casing on it, a higher color gamut display, optional pen. And then there's the Dell Inspiron SE, which is also a very nice looking machine in this price range. So it doesn't stand out against the competition. It's not a bad laptop by any means. It's not a fantastic laptop. It's just kind of in betweener. And Lenovo's own 900 kind of shows it up, which I think they wanted to do. They want you to get that 900 if you can afford it at all. Anyway, it's serviceable. It's solid. If you like the Lenovo brand, it's there for you. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool laptop, convertible, tablet, and smartphone reviews.